moana, hei huarahi mā tātou I te rangi nei, aloha atu, aloha mai, tātou ia tātou kato, haumi e hui e, tāi ki e.
Kia ora.
Thank you. Just by way of a little bit of comment for start, I'm just getting the screen, some of the stuff out of the way. Go. So I'm back again. So apologies for this change at late notice, but allowed us to get to a quite important hui here at Waitangi, and thank you all for your support there. Do we have, moving on now to apologies, do we have any apologies? Tui there, I take it's maybe apology from her, is that correct?
I believe so, yes, thank you.
All right, if we can put apologies from Tui, everybody else I believe is here. Tui, the chair, Tui Shortland.
Mr. Chairperson, can I just, I'm not sure that Councillor Larson from KDC is here, so we'll put his apologies in if he isn't here.
Okay, and and Councillor Larson. Can I have a move in a second for those apologies, please?
Yeah, I'll move it.
Thanks, Craig. And seconder, I'll second. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried. If there are any declarations of interest, if that item arises, I don't think there is, not from us, but if there is, just raise your hand. It'll get our attention some way and then declare those declaration of interest. So on item 4.1, which is on page, just find it, page 4, and that's the minutes. Can I have a move and a seconder for the minutes?
I'll move the minutes.
Thank you. Seconder. I've got a hand up there from Marty. Thanks, Marty. Are there any corrections in the minutes? Any errors? No. Anybody? No. All right. I'll move. Now put it to vote. All in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Carried. Look, if I know it's online and it's a bit tricky to see hands, so when I say all in favour, please raise your yellow hand or do something or bring attention, and we'll just take a note of that. Yeah, just as Craig has done. So I take it everybody's in favour. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next item is item 5.1, a move in a second. That's the action sheet, and that's on page 8 in my minutes, 8 and 9. Move in a second, please. I'll move. Seconder.
Yep.
Yep, whoever that was, Craig. Thanks, Craig. Oh. Comments.
I'll take my hand down.
Yeah. Was that your hand, Marty?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. John, would you like me to provide a comment?
Yeah, please, Manuel. And also, if you see anybody's hands up, because I'm trying to do two things here at once, yep. Just speak up and say, look, someone's got their hand up, please, Manuela. But can you make a comments, either you or Daryl? I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yes. Kia ora koutou. So this agenda, including the action sheet, was circulated last week on Friday. Obviously, a couple of things changed since then regarding to this meeting. Daryl and I were planning to prepare an IGR, an investment and growth reserve evaluation paper for you today. Obviously, due to time constraints, we're not going to be doing that, but we will be moving that to a future meeting, probably July, let's say July or September. That's probably the one comment. As for the post-cyclone Gabriel plan, as well, I think this item will be moved to just the next meeting. That's all, I think. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Any other comments from anyone? No.
Oh, and finally, I know we didn't get the chance to go to NAFA this time around, but again, if the committee wishes, we are more than welcome to plan that for one of our future meetings as well.
Yeah, I certainly would appreciate that. I think the Mayor Kuiper there, you were quite keen to, and Jonathan, to see it as well. So if we can put that in, schedule it somewhere, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, we could do it up there.
Excellent.
Yep, noted.
Right. Right, moving to item 6.1. Now I'll move, and this is on page 11, that the 150,000 plus Gs to be allocated as enabling investment fund from the
John.
Yep.
John, sorry to interrupt, but Chair Tui is trying to get into Teams. If she can have some assistance, please, Manuela or Melanie.
Aroha mai, I made it. Thank you.
Oh, kia ora Tui.
Tēnā koe tui.
Yeah, tēnā koe tui. Good to have you on board. We're just moving item 6.1. All the rest was basically straightforward. So you got here where it's an important items. So I move that item that 150,000 plus Gs to be allocated as enabling investment funding from the investment and growth reserves to Northland Inc Limited for the 2023-24 financial year to support the implementation phase of the Tupu Growth Northland Initiative. And 2, that in making the allocation of funding to Northland Inc, the Joint Committee note that the support does not constitute a long-term committee to the funding of the Tupu Growth Northland Initiative beyond June 2024. It's actually on page 11. And number 3, that Northland Inc provide quarter reports to the period ending 30 September 2023, 30 December 2023, and 31st of March 2024. And the rest of it's there as well. And so I'll move that plus the first one, which I should have moved, which was that we received the report, Investment Growth Reserve Enabling Investment, Daryl Jones, economist, and dated 2nd of June 2023, be received. So there's 4 things there. Can I have a second for all of that?
Jonathan's got his hand up.
Jonathan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, sorry, I don't understand what you're doing here. Are you trying to move something that is a staff recommendation, or are you moving something different? And if you are moving something different, can we have it up on the screen so we know what you're moving rather than 100 words read out to us?
Yep, yeah, thank you, Jonathan. That's a fair comment. It's on page 11 of your agenda, and it is what the staff actually put out there. It's not the recommendation as the staff put up initially, but it's also it's a statement, should the Joint Committee decide to allocate 150,000, which I might add is the recommendation. We're going to have some comments and discussion after this, but we can't do that until we
sorry, Mr. Chair. I'm trying to ask a question of you. Is it what's written in the agenda on pages 10 and 11, or is it something different to that? Because the way I read this at point 2 of the recommendation, it says support that 150,000 plus GST not be allocated. Are you moving that, or are you moving something else?
I'm moving something else. It is
okay. Thank you.
It is the point 1. It's on page 11 of your agenda.
I've got page 10 and 11, which is recommendation
10.
1, 2, 3. Is that what you're moving, or something different?
No, I'm moving 1, 2, and 3 on a page 11, which is the alternative that the staff put up.
Okay. Okay, I got you down the bottom of the page. Yeah, all right.
Down the bottom of the page. Yeah, sorry, Jonathan, I didn't make that clear at the time.
Okay, yeah, it's not in the diagram there yet.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, can I just leap in here for 2 seconds? Just with that recommendation in part 2, just want to note that it should read that in making this allocation of funding to Northland Inc, the Joint Committee note that this support does not constitute a long-term commitment rather than committee. To the funding.
Comment. Yeah.
So if we just change that before you get a seconder, then you're good.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Chair John, I wonder if we can take it just to get the conversation on the table is to receive. You take it item by item, so get the conversation going.
we'll do that, Marty. So we'll start then for the first one to receive the report.
Yeah, I'll move.
And I'll second that. So, and I'll put that to the vote because there's no point discussing that. All in favour?
Aye.
Right.
I'm
Anybody
sorry.
against?
Where does it
That's
say in
received.
part 1 that we're receiving the report? I'm sorry, John, you've got me completely confused here. I don't know what you're up to. We've got two
Yeah,
recommendations in front of us. One's apparently a staff recommendation, one's something else. It's now accepting a
so
report,
Jonathan,
but point 1 at the bottom of page 11 doesn't say accepting a report. So what are we doing?
I did mention that as well, and I was reading it all out. So sorry for the confusion there, Jonathan. But the first thing we're going to do is move, as Marty pointed out, to receive the report. So we do it in parts, and that's on
which
page 10.
Where
That's
does it
on
say? What page?
That's on
Page 10, Jonathan.
10, recommendation 1.
Okay, so you're taking that piece out of there, but you're taking the rest of it from the bottom of the page. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, they are separate. They're separate. Yeah, I am. We are taking that. There's no other way of going forward without receiving it first. We have a move and a seconder. Does anybody, and I put it to the vote. Everybody agreed. Is anybody against not receiving the report? Craig, you were saying yes to that?
Yep.
Yep. All right. So that's done. Now on page 11, Jonathan, instead of moving that it not be allocated, I moved 1, 2, and 3. We could do that in parts if you like. That the 150,000. And can someone put that on the screen, please, so that we can see it, because it makes it a lot easier.
Oh, yep.
The text is there. Yeah, and that's a bit awkward. What we normally do is put it on the screen.
Good, no problems.
Thank you.
And did everybody see that okay?
Yeah. So
Yes, thank
number
you.
1 there, that the 150,000 plus G is to be allocated as enabling investment funding for the investment and growth reserve to Northern Inc. Limited for the 2023-24 financial year to support the implementation phase of the Tupu Growth Northern Initiative. I moved it. Is there a seconder?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Thank you. Now we can have discussion about that. And the reason I've move that we do that is it's actually following from the previous term when we did it for 1 year. And if you look at the situation that Northern Lincoln is, it's also a recommendation from the board that would be accepted. MPI doesn't provide for operational funds. It's looking at the keeping that group going, which is in the primary sector, which is a key PO that they've identified in the strategy and also in their statement of intent. So what I'm fearful of is, should we say no to that, then very likely, and I can ask Paul if he's there to comment, should we want comment, very likely we could be looking at staff being lost in the capacity of Northern Inc. and providing that function being lost, and then achieving the strategy, which we go on later. I doubt whether we can actually move that along. I'm aware of the staff comments and I appreciate those comments, and technically you may not have a solid business case, but I'm out of this, having this fund, having that capacity there to get to engage as last time. I'm confident that Northern Inc. can generate substantial external funding from support from MPI, and they will not support an operational. They're looking for a project, and that's where we can get that coming along with that support. So that's sort of initial comment there as the move I've made. Does anybody else wish to comment, please?
Sorry, Jonathan Larson has his hand up.
Thank you, Jonathan. I couldn't see that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I've got a question just to clarify what's happening here. Is the way I read it here is it says that the staff are recommending not to allocate 150,000. Who are the staff? The staff of what entity?
Daryl.
Yep. Thank you very much for the question, Councillor Larson. So it's the staff of the Northern Regional Council, who have the secretariat responsibilities for the Joint Regional Economic Development Committee. So the way in which the criteria for the Investment and Growth Reserve is set out requires decision by the Joint Regional Economic Development Committee to make a funding allocation, an enabling investment funding allocation. To do that requires a report, which we provided here, and that comes through and done by council officers at NRC. One of the requirements for a funding allocation includes a board of Northland Inc. board recommendation, and this issue about the business case. So that's also been provided as part of the agenda item 6.1. So the staff in this case here are the local government council staff from NRC providing the secretariat support to the joint committee.
Okay, so how does that work though? They're providing secretarial support to the committee, but the committee is constituted of members from multiple councils. So when you say staff, it's only the staff of NRC. What do the staff of KDC and Far North District Council think? Do they think it shouldn't be allocated, or does NRC have some sort of technical power of veto on this matter?
Well, we have no power of veto in the sense that that decision is up to the joint committee. We provide the report. We do in terms of that reflecting the terms of reference for the of the joint committee is that NRC would carry out that functions. In preparing the documentation for the joint committee, however, we do provide a draft report of what we are proposing to both officers and staff in FNDC and KDC as well. Provide an opportunity for comment and input into it, though it does come from NRC.
Sure, thanks for that. So was any feedback given from Far North District Council and Kaipara District Council regarding this recommendation?
Yeah, the answer to that, if I can answer that, Daryl, Jonathan, is no. And the reason for that is, so if you look at it this way, there is allocated staff from NRC, Daryl Emmanuel, and they provide a lot of the paperwork which you see in all the reports. And generally, they make a recommendation based on their expertise and so on. So they will add to that. In no way do they have powers of veto. And it is us, namely all of the members of the Joint Regional Economic Development Committee, that carry the desires and wishes from the respective council to this decision-making table, which is where we're here now at the moment. Does that answer your question?
Well, it sort of does and sort of doesn't. I mean, if these items drafts get distributed to the officers of Kaipara District Council and Far North District Council for comment before they're finalised, in this instance, what I'm understanding is that this item was distributed to those officers and they made no comment. Is that correct?
Can I just leap in here for a sec? I think it's Councillor Larson. Yeah, so the Secretariat is supported with a working group of operational staff from all the councils, and Daryl and Manuela act as the Secretariat and the coordinating point for all of the councils. So this recommendation was put through me as a CE lead officer for this committee, and technically, the report is 100% correct and the recommendation is correct in that the original funding was allocated and required a business case. So it's a report, and the recommendation from staff is that technically the business case hasn't been fulfilled, the requirement. However, as the chair has said, this committee has the responsibility for deciding either way, and there are no sort of legal ramifications if you decide to go down the path which is being moved at the moment.
Okay, thanks. So just for completeness then, from my understanding, we have a request from Northern Inc staff to provide the funding. There is a Northern Inc board recommendation to provide the funding, and then we have a recommendation from NRC following consultation with Kaipara District Council and Far North District Council to not provide the funding. Is that a correct summary?
The consultation part is where you're wrong, because it's the supporting staff who made a recommendation, but there has been no consultation that I'm aware of with Kaipara staff or Far North District Council staff.
Okay,
That's
thank
the
you
job
for
of
that.
this board. Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Marty, you've got your hand up. Marty, you had your hand up.
Thanks, John, and thanks staff for your recommendation. And Jonathan, these two recommendations, because we're going out on a limb, or would be going out on a limb and providing it, because we're sort of flying in the face of our own recommendations, that it's 1/3, 2/3, so we're going above the 1/3, 2/3 by about 4 or 5%. I don't know whether that's $20,000 or not. And also that we haven't really got a strong business case. John, your reasoning was because we don't want to sort of have Northern Inc fail and start dropping our staff, and I'd agree with that. But I'd like to ask possibly Nicole or Paul or even Jeff Copstick to put their feet to the fire and justify why we should be going out on a limb ourselves.
Yeah, I'm happy with that, Marty, and that's what I was hoping to do as well. So, Nicole, do you want to make comment, and then the CE Paul?
I'm really happy to hand this one over to Paul, but just acknowledge councillors' concerns. I guess, you know, for me, this is a critical strategic investment for Northland. It enables us to leverage some considerable funding. This is business as usual for Northland Inc. This is how we roll in some sense, and that we have to have that initial funding to leverage Central. It's a fabulous initiative. This aligns with our strategy. We've done, you know, put considerable work into this. We're caught on a technicality, I guess, which is up to you all as members. So tēnā tātou. I'll just hand to Paul to add to this, and then maybe Jeff might want to add something from there.
Yeah,
And just to make a quick comment, if I may, sorry, that Mayor Craig has his hand up.
Thank you. Before you speak, Paul.
I can wait till after we've heard from Paul.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Craig, and Marty. Thanks for the question. So Nicole's quite right. I mean, the primary sector is a key work stream for Northern Inc. It's been previously identified, and in the strategic planning work we did recently, it was reaffirmed again. And this is the structure that we suggested we put in place to move forward with it. So technically, the Secretary is correct in that it's not what I would call a pure business case. But in my sense, it's actually better than that, because what it does is it provides us a framework to drop multiple business cases within it. And each business case as we go forward, and those business cases may be around a particular crop, they may be around aquaculture, they might be around added value, freeze drying for kumara, or whatever it might be. So this gives us a structure going forward, and it also gives us the opportunity to get co-funding. And the comment I think John made is quite right. We have socialised this program with MPI. We said, would you match it with 50%? They actually said, ask for more money. We think it's a good program. But without the support from the council through this funding mechanism, we can't go out and leverage it and get co-funding like the group did under Vaughan with and Luke with E350. And the money the council provided, you know, got leveraged into the millions. It was really substantial. So that's the purpose of this. If we don't do this, then again, John was quite right. Central government won't fund operational expenditure. They'll fund project expenditure. So this enables us to keep this team together, keep the learnings in place, and then use it to build out specific business cases, which we can then look at a a real good commercial basis. Will they fly? Will they not fly? And how do we get in behind them to support them? So in that sense, I actually think this is a better model than trying to come up with a specific business case for one particular crop or tactically one particular project. It's much more strategic. Back to you, John.
Thank you, Paul. I'll go now to Craig. You wanted to make a comment, Craig?
I just wanted to verify, probably with you, Paul, if we don't continue and provide this funding, does it threaten this projects that are half complete or part complete?
Yes, it does to an extent. We'll end up, some of our staff will leave us at the end of June. And the peanut trials and the other trials that are currently underway, they'll come to their end of their natural life within the next 3 months. And then the staff that are working on those will depart as well. So we won't have a primary team at all.
Thank you.
So any other, Tui? I see your hand up. Spotted that one.
Kia ora koutou. Yeah, so we are a new committee, and to hear that this is business as usual is tough for me. I'm not used to making decisions that go against what the staff recommend. I'm not used to making decisions to spend money without knowing exactly where it's going. You're asking us to take the leap of faith that Māori mentioned, and I would recommend that in future you consider how you can support us to make, to support your decisions, by presenting these types of things in other ways, because Māori and I, we represent others of the councillors who I also think would not be fully comfortable with this, and particularly in such a short time frame that we've kind of been, pushed into making a decision. And so I'm just wanting to say, for the record, this is not the most robust decision-making experience, and I don't want to be stuck with these types of. I don't want this to be business as usual, actually, or I want you to present it in a different way to us so that we can have more confidence in the unknowns. And I'd like these types of things to be presented to us as soon as they come up, so that we're not stuck in these risks of being told that staff are going to leave, that we're going to lose staff. Because the other thing is, where's the long-term business case then? If you knew that the staff were going to leave at a certain point, then why wasn't it planned for earlier? So I'm just saying, I'm not going against the recommendation, but I'm not happy about it. Kia ora.
Thank you, Tui. Any other comments? Kia ora, Tui. I support what you're saying, Tui. On one side of me says, look, well, we don't want people to lose their jobs, and the team that would be compromised obviously is important with the various projects going on in the north. But I think Tui, you're right. We need to thrash out these take before we get to the vote and before the sui, because having the discussion now, actually we're still stuck on the first agenda item and we've been here for 37 minutes. It's not really good enough, and I don't want these types of meetings to run like this in the future. It's actually a time waste. It's wasting my time and it's wasting everyone else's time here. So Daryl, please, and it's no one's fault, I'm not blaming anyone, but Daryl and Manuela, in future, can we have, if we have a recommendation like this from Paul, then please let's consider calling an emergency meeting where we can actually get down to the granular detail, the weeds and seeds about exactly where the pute is going. Have every faith in Northern Inc, absolutely. But we're here on behalf of the entirety of the North, and they don't want to know that we're just flying blind into meetings and having a free-for-all, as it may be perceived amongst them. So I'm not going against the recommendation either, but yeah, we need to be more clinical, and we need to be more efficient when we're considering these options. Kia ora. Yeah, thanks for those comments. It is challenging. I've had the blessing, I suppose, of sitting with Northland Inc. and their strategy, and have seen the work that's gone into it and the potential. And it's also in the agenda. If you look at the Grow Northland initiative and all those comments that have been made there, and the case studies, and see what's actually been achieved, and so I actually supported, as you probably know, and moved it. And the reason is, as Paul has outlined, this is more strategic in many ways, and creates more opportunities for projects that are spread across the area. In the other following recommendation, we're putting a tight rein on it, and there'll be reporting coming through. So I'm actually very happy to support it. And I've got Jonathan, is that your hand up again?
Yes, it is. I just wanted to just clarify from a procedural perspective. Are the mover and the seconder speaking? Have they already spoken? Is it time for other members to now speak to the motion, or is that still to come?
I've had Craig speak, I've had you speak, I've had Marty speak, Tui, and both Pinatone myself. Right. So all of the members have spoken.
All I've done is ask some questions. I would like to speak to the motion if now is the time to do that.
Oh, yes. Yep. By all means. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't have a particular problem with the process that's been followed here. I believe that we need to be dynamic and innovative and be able to change direction and to modify strategy, not in the typical local government bureaucratic glacial speed, but in a private sector type speed where we actually can pivot and change without having to wait months and months. So I have, although I'm very new to this, I have full faith in Paul and his staff to deliver excellent outcomes for us for Northland. And I also have full faith in the board, who have given us a recommendation to proceed with this. And I think it's totally fine to go ahead and allocate this funding and keep these programs going and hang on to our staff that are already in the organisation and doing good work. And let's really push things forward and get this work done and do a lot more as well in the future. So that's my comment. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Can I just got a question? Is that Daryl?
Kia ora.
Can you hear me? Kia ora, Daryl. Can you help me understand why the staff actually had recommended to go to not allocate the $150,000, even though they knew that it would potentially result in job losses?
Technical issue.
Kia ora. Well,
and I've read the paperwork.
Yep, cool. I think in the main issue is that a business case is required, whether it's for a project or a program. I think there are certain elements there in terms of that a business case would have provided us to help us in terms of understanding things along the line about how that money is going to be used, why, for helped us understand exactly, for example, the level of staffing that they see as required here is the right level of staffing. It's not less or more than that. There was certainly funding provided through to Northland Inc. in September last year by the Joint Committee to facilitate the Grow Northland program through the current financial year, and part of that was to develop and deliver to the committee a program business case, and that hasn't happened. And I think I suppose I'm just conscious also that the allocation of this funding for this project from the Investment Growth Reserve also pretty much uses up all the Investment Growth Reserve funding, and we don't have any other ability to allocate for other enabling investment initiatives that might occur during the year. So that in coming year, and so therefore that takes away that opportunity, and it's not 100% clear to me what we're getting for the $150,000 that we're putting in. So it was all on those bases that we were putting that, recognising that that was the point.
So can you, if I just really frank here, can you tell me what are the other, of some of the other things that were funded in the past from that reserve, are they as are they kind of on the same